sometimes something is not a problem till it leaves our neighborhoods. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I'll just be clear. Listen,
Okay.
we've been waving our arms for 30 years in the Central District.
Yep.
We're most impacted by crime, most impacted by violence. Ain't nobody care until white folks got impacted. The arrogance here in this city, and also a lot of the media, where there's like, oh, well, now crime is the number one thing. That's because your white people's been impacted by crime. It's been number one for us since I was a little kid.
You know, what I like to call the new colonizers would move into Beacon Hill and Columbia City in the South End. Yeah, but they still align with the Black Lives Matters stuff because they're privileged.
Don't get me going, Matt.
Hello and welcome to Unfiltered. I'm Enrique Cerna, along with my gang of four here. Actually, we're a gang of four. My other gang of three, Debora Juarez, former Seattle City Council member, Matt Chan, my partner on the Chino Y Chicano podcast, and the big O, Omari Salisbury, the founder of Converge Media. Hey, thanks everybody for getting together to do this. This is our kind of kickoff of our effort to get together and talk about what's happening in the city, what's happening in the region, what's kind of happening that just kind of stirs our energy or pisses us off. All right, so Debora, actually, let's start with you because this is your kind of coming out. You have been not in hiding, but well, maybe in hiding. You really haven't been very public since you left the Seattle City Council. So what's been going on?
Kind of like the groundhog. Finally came out to show my shadow. Post City Council, it's been great. I've been doing a lot of sleeping, reading, walking, finished 3 books. You know how you have that stack of books on the side of your bed? I read 3 books that were amazing. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I think me and Matt were sharing that I listened to the Cassidy Hutchinson podcast and the Kara Swisher and the Liz Cheney, just catching up and just reconnecting with my family, my friends, going to tribal events, just participating in tribal community events and kind of behind the scenes, doing a lot of writing and editing and working with certain people on articles and stuff that's going to be published. And believe it or not, a lot of prayer, which has been wonderful, just being able to, just kind of recalibrate what's important to me. And also spending a ton of time with my grandbabies, Cyrus and Evie. I'm going to go down to California again and spend some more time with my grandson. And just really just kind of, I don't even know the word. After 8 years of being downtown, it was a great job. I can drive by, it's like high school or college, and you're like, yeah, I went there, kind of move on. No disrespect for the people that are there, but it's been really nice. And I think I made the right decision. After 8 years, it was time for other folks to step up. I love Kathy Moore, or Councilmember Moore. I still am in touch with certain council members, and they call me. And I like being kind of the auntie. I appreciate that.
Have you been following what's happening very much on the council, or have you specifically tried to keep yourself away?
I have successfully, and this is, Omari can hold me to this, I have successfully stayed away from Seattle City Council and all the stuff. I don't know what's going on, and I didn't even know about the issue that happened in City Hall until someone sent me a clip. And I said, well, I don't read all, and I don't watch a lot of that stuff. So, and I watched that. It's probably the only time is when I saw the disruption in Seattle City Hall. And I only know because like 3 people sent me the clip to say, then the media was calling me, and I didn't know why people were calling me because I wasn't responding. And then I said, oh, that's why the media is calling. They want me to be the Monday morning quarterback and talk about the summer and fall of 2020 and how people can't behave at City Hall and who's accountable. And I kind of have to laugh when I hear people say, well, maybe that worked with the last council. Well, actually it didn't, but that's another story. That's another show.
Yeah. Well, we know that this kind of civil disobedience not only just happened at the council for you, that it came to your home. So that was something else to deal with there. So, well, hey, I'm glad that you're taking time to join us and that you are having some time to get re-energized. Okay. Do you know what your next gig is going to be yet? Or are you still looking, going through those many offers that they're coming across your table?
I am
Miss
really liking
Juarez,
what
we'd like you to
Omari.
work for us here. We want you to do
I'm
this.
liking this because Omari and I talked about this a while ago, and I really enjoyed the give and take on Converge and with you guys when I was on your podcast. I've been on other podcasts. I really am starting to enjoy this whole media thing and being, as you say, unfiltered. But also I needed time between December 15th and leaving Seattle City Council and now to kind of decompress. And, I'm not angry. I'm not mad. I don't feel angst. What I still feel is a deep love for this city and this community and our state and everything else that's going on. I'm not disconnected. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not angry. I'm not feeling, jaded. I'm feeling very honored that I had a chance to do a good thing for 8 years. So I don't know what I'm going to do. In fact, now that if I'm going to be on TV, yeah, I need a job. So Omari might
Okay.
hire me.
Anybody out there that wants to
Yeah,
wants just a very low key,
yeah.
non-confronting type of
I'll get
individual?
coffee. I'll do copy. And we all need fashion tips. I got you.
Okay, Matt and Omari, I want to get you to weigh in here. So, what do you think about how Deborah's rocking the gray on her hair there? Isn't that kind of cool?
Love it.
I
I
like
think
it.
it's perfect.
Yeah,
It's appropriate.
yeah,
Because
He
you don't
showed
want
up
that.
camera ready.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Camera.
do.
She-
Because
You
when
don't
you
wanna
get to
do
be this age, you got to work this. You guys just wash your faces. That's all you do and put on a damn hat.
Yeah,
Can't do
well,
that.
you're assuming a lot there.
yeah, yes, you are. Yeah,
Totally
especially.
underdressed for today.
Yeah, not only that, it's like you got to remember Matt and I are retired. We just kind of roll out and just turn on the computer. So we're lucky if we even brush our teeth at this point, you know? So, okay, last night, and this is the Friday as we record this. So last night I moderated a public forum at it was at the Central Library downtown. It was Mayor Harrell's Creating a Safer Seattle. And of course,
Mhm.
this happens at the day after there were two shootings in the Central District. The one that was a drive-by, a young student that had been in the wrong place at the wrong time, out at a bus stop, drive-by happens, she gets shot in the leg. Not long afterwards, a woman is shot and killed not too far away. Omari, you're a CD guy. I mean, you went to Garfield, didn't you?
Yeah, no, and first of all, it's like this problem that we faced in violence in our community. Unfortunately, is generational. When I was a student at Garfield High School, quite a few of my schoolmates were murdered. This is decades and decades ago, and we're still dealing with and confronting these issues. Um, and yesterday or a few days ago now for that drive-by, and there's been quite a few shootings over there at in front of Garfield. And then, of course, a few blocks later at 23rd and Jackson, or just off of 23rd and Jackson, which has really been a hot spot that people have tried to call attention to. Apollonia, Washington, A for Apple, all these guys that are sitting over there on 23rd and Jackson, and to bring attention to it. But unfortunately, this is something it's a continuation. And there's been times of violence disruption in the neighborhood, but there hasn't been a time of continuous disruption around what's occurring.
What's going on? Do you have any idea? Is this a gang thing? Is it just a small group of people, or is it just, I don't know?
So generally speaking, right? Like if you were to talk to the data people over at public health and these different things, it's a very small group of people across our county that are responsible for the majority of violence and violent crimes and everything else in one way or another interconnected. And it's all come in waves over the years. It hasn't always been tied to one particular thing. At one point, it was a crack epidemic, led to a lot of violence and drug sales and turf like that. And then all the way to today, where a lot of beefs are literally, believe it or not, fueled off of social media. Social media is fueling a lot of things. And then when you factor into that, and there's one thing that never comes up in the discussions that people have in the town halls and everything else. I think we can clearly identify places where government and city and civic leaders can do more. But one thing that's not brought up is, man, our parents, our community. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these are people's kids. And and some kids, we just gotta be honest. Some kids, there is no one at home. Parents might be, locked up. There might be like drugs or different things going on. But a good number of these kids, when they show up to court, you see that their parents is there. The parents is working to, jobs, this and that, gainfully employed. Some of these people, high profile jobs and everything else. And it makes you wonder, is like, man, what are we doing in our homes? And no one's really talking about, man, where are the parents in our community, this Black community, like a lot of communities of color, is like, man, where is the rest of our community at? And and for us, specifically Black community in Seattle, the community used to be there. I knew not to act up, wild child, because my neighbors were there. The bus driver on the 48 lived in the Central District. They tell my mama, "Ooh, your son was acting up on the bus." You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't go. Like, the community also played a big part. And so we're seeing a lot of different aspects and elements that are coming into play here, from starting from the home, from the community, and then also, different things like, lack of opportunities and other things as well. But I think that us making sure that, one, our community, and two, parents and families are in these discussions of how we go about disrupting. And that's just not something that I really hear at a lot of these meetings.
Yeah. You're right. Oftentimes in the meetings, it's all about, okay, how we stop the shootings. It's more focused on that part of it, and you don't really dig deeper into what could be leading up to it.
Some parents need support. Like, this is the thing is that, so there's good upstream programs, excellent ones, fathers and sons together, FAST. One that I always talk about, CD Panthers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
getting kids from a small age. And then you have things like Africatown and their technology pipelines and all, so there's things that are out there. But one thing that I never hear, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I never hear, is, man, there clearly are a lot of parents that are out of touch or overwhelmed in their household. There's a lot of households where these kids are running the house, and it would be interesting to see, like, man, what resources are there for parents in parenting and gaining some control back into their households, or good parenting tips to be able, man, check up on your kids. Like, I ain't have, I had privacy, but I ain't had no privacy in my home. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. She's like, you gonna have to go pay some rent. And so, but it's not like that in a lot of these homes. A lot of these young kids is literally running a home. And you might have parents who really are an SOS, but they don't have nowhere to go. They don't have like, what resources do we have that can reinforce and embolden and give support to parents? Because that's the first place where some of these kids that are out there, they're out there and they're coming from horrible conditions. There is no parent to go back and talk to and everything else. We need to be clear on that. You know what I'm saying? But there is a good percentage of these young people out here who are doing things where, like I said, things are originating in the home. They might not be getting that bad practice in the home. That might not be where a bad example is coming from. But the fact that, there is no one checking up on them starting from the home, it leads down a bad path.
To me, the focus seems to be so much on just the crime itself.
Because it's hard to point a finger at yourself.
Yeah.
We sit here at Converge and we're like, man, what can we do better?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What can we? This is our community. We have a misnomer that government's gonna say, ain't nobody coming to save us. Yeah. We have to save ourselves. And if government can play a role in that, man, which they should, that'd be great. But if we'll be waiting literally till Jesus comes. You know what I'm saying? If we're gonna wait for policies and legislations to change a lot of the things that are happening and occurring within our community. And one of the things that's never really spoken about is, like, man, how can we as our community be more emboldened and in protecting our young? This is protecting our youth. Yes, a lot of the youth are the perpetrators, but this is protecting. This is a child who was just going to school who was shot.
Yeah.
A child. And these things happened so much 2 years ago. There was a shooting up there at the CD Panthers practice. No one got hit, but it's like they're shooting at football games. They're shooting at schools. And if we, as our community members, if we're not outraged, we can have no expectation for government to care more than we care.
Right.
I want to just interject with what Omari said, and I'm sure this will not be popular with certain people for me to say, but I agree with Omari that people think that government doesn't fix everything. You can't put every social ill at the feet of government and say, oh, the reason they're shooting is because there's systemic racism. And I'm just going to call BS on that. Omari is of the age, and me too, where everyone's child belonged to everybody. We couldn't get away with anything because the neighbor, the teacher, I mean, every auntie was around in every corner. We all took responsibility and accountability for our children. And I'm just going to say it. I don't see that. I mean, I was listening to your last night, the forum on creating a safer Seattle. And if I had to count how many times I heard community, after a while, it doesn't mean anything. It's like, well, what does that mean? Are there aunties and uncles out there pulling people up short, saying your kid wasn't home? When I was a public defender and was a juvie, a lot of these kids that had guns and were doing things, they didn't have parents at home. They had parents that were, doing drugs, or they were living in a car. And, they just, and again, it isn't to say that these are bad people. But where is this, again, the community support that's what our children are. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's the whole point of, an auntie or uncle is a loaded where, I have the right, the ability, and the responsibility to hold this young parent or this child accountable, even if they're not actually my child or my nephew. I will do that because that's how I was raised. Mm. So I really respect what Omari said, but that was one of the most frustrating things being on Seattle City Council, is having people come forward and blame everything on the government. And what are you going to do to fix it?
Well, if I could jump in here, if you just look at just another issue that really impacts us is, the issue of education, which has been improving somewhat. But every time that I talk to Brandon Hersey, I think he's the president now of the school board. And I'm like, man, you guys have a lot of conversations. So you guys need to have a parents report card, because we got a lot of parents who ain't never read the syllabus, don't look at the homework, ain't been to the PTA meetings, and they're on Zoom. I know parents are busy, this and that, no accountability around the kid. But as soon as the kid gets suspended, then it's like, oh, well, the school this and the school that and the school. And I'm not taking the school off the hook either, because it'd be crazy out there sometimes too. But the lack of involvement, and it isn't involvement until there's a crisis. And I'm like, yo, man, what are you guys? Because everybody talks about it. It's like, yes, we're further from educational justice, I think is the word that they use, the phrase they use. But it's like, man, how are we challenging our parents in our community to say, hey, man, this is how we're going to be involved in this school. This is our tax law. This school is going to work for us. It's going to work for our kids. It's going to work for our communities. Things don't work if we don't make them work. And we're suffering in our community. Our young people are suffering because there's just a lot of people, when you use this word community, who aren't engaged until it's on fire. And then it's like, oh, let me do something. Like I said, they don't go to the school. They don't look at the homework. They don't do anything until the child is now in trouble at the school. And then all of a sudden it's the school's fault. And so, for us, we are always challenging. We want to challenge our community members. Man, get involved. Get involved in your kid's life one way or another,
Mm-hmm. You're hitting it. I think what you're saying is a piece that's missing right now in the conversation. And, with Converge, you guys can do this.
Well, I would say this, and a less political in somewhat is because it's around development. If you just look at something like this with just involvement, right? Because when you talk about gun violence, it's a big thing, and you talk about education, we'll tone it down a little bit and just talk about development, Central District, right? No one used to go to the meetings, the development meetings, right, from the community. And so the developers would just build anything that they wanted. They're not representative of the neighborhood. Man, we partnered with a bunch of different groups years ago, Africa Town, BCIA, and this and that, to get people in those development meetings. And that's why you see on 23rd Union, Lake Union Partners owns 3 of those buildings there. but it's still black art on all the buildings. So people were like, okay, well, we no longer own the property. We might not live in the neighborhood, but this was the epicenter of black culture. And so because of going to those meetings, when you go to 23rd and Union, you see amazing black art everywhere. That is the result of activating people in the community and being like, listen, man, if you want this neighborhood to look like us, if you want the legacy to remain, you have to show up. And so we see what happens. That's on a smaller scale, but we see what happens if we activate our community. And that's why 23rd Union looks like that. Not because they originally planned to put black faces everywhere, because people showed up to every meeting. It was like, we're going to be represented here.
Yeah. Matt, I want to get your impressions of the forum that was held last night, and what'd you think? I know that you took time to watch it.
Well, I thought it was a masterful piece of showmanship, right? I mean, as a show, it worked very well. Everyone, I mean, it's like it's not a central casting.
The moderator was very good, by the way. I want to say.
Okay, that wasn't talking about that.
Very handsome. I was going to ask who that was.
Muy guapo, muy guapo.
You look and listen to those people, and how could you not think of them as decent human beings? Their conversations were people focused. But again, it's like Omari said, we're no different than we were in the 90s, right? It's just different words. It's like big data. That's the big one now. Technology is going to save us now. But if you hear the undercurrent there, they do use the word community, but there's no connection to community. The first thing they said, well, we'll get our nonprofit partners to help this. Well, nonprofit, I got a bone to pick now with nonprofits because they're not nonprofit. They're still businesses. They're just not accountable. I mean, the most cruel accountability in a marketplace is your customers, and their nonprofits' customers are the government, right? So that relationship just goes between the government and the nonprofits. And God help it if money actually comes to the community in meaningful ways. When the executive directors of these things are making six figures or more, while their frontline people are barely making minimum wage, that's outrageous because that's supposedly what they're fighting against. I think there needs to be curbs on executive compensations in nonprofits to ensure equity, because equity starts there. And I think they need to be more focused, like Omari says, on families. Now, that's not true of every community, but in the South End, it is. And I bet you if you uncover enough stuff, other areas that have problems in the city, it's the same thing. It's family. Right. But I think as far as a show, it was masterful. I mean, it was a handpicked audience. Bruce was forceful. Bruce was the mayor. Police Chief Diaz was sympathetic. The fire chief was right out of central casting. You can see him in any Chicago Fire episode, And so it was very interesting. I mean, I thought the one person that was really refreshing was the chief of care.
Yeah.
Because she combines all the data and everything else into a humanistic kind of value that I think is missing often. But again, I think Omari's dead right. You've got to engage the community. When we pushed back against the shelter and the CID, it was the community that did that. It wasn't a nonprofit. Nonprofits wouldn't touch us because, that could disrupt their funding. And so we went alone and the people spoke and we got our way. Now there's a number of other things, but essentially that's what happened. So people, the old sayings from the 90s, right? People power, it does work.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you did well in that, because you and your wife, Guy, were very involved in it, was the fact that you got the ladies from the Asian community come out and stand on the front line with you.
Aunties.
Yeah, really. And
we didn't even have to bribe them with food.
No, because they brought it. So, yeah. But yeah, no. One thing I want to comment about last night with the forum is that keep in mind is that this was kind of a kickoff thing, and so I think it was really setting the foundation for now they're going to go into the community and the different areas, and I think that'll be different because that's getting that community feedback I think one of the things they wanted to do with this was really to establish it out there, hopefully be able to talk about things from the city's perspective without too much disruption, because I think they're very, concerned about that stuff.
Yeah.
We had one little minor thing off the top, and that was about it. But so now it's like, okay, where do you go from here? And this
And
is where, yeah.
I was, well, first of all, it was great that you, two things to you, Enrique. Number one, thank you for setting the tone to be civil and respectful.
Yeah.
And I know that you had to do it again later because someone started doing their hollering. They thought they were at City Hall.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that we can be civil, respectful, have different opinions, and have a safe forum to have those discussions, because this is a serious discussion. But I found it interesting that the title is Creating a Safer Seattle, because within that sentence is the presumption that it's not safe. And so we got to overcome this presumption that it's not safe. We got to make it safer. So, and then also the polling that you did, how it was going between more police or treatment. It was like going back and forth.
Right.
And we didn't need the polling for that. We all know that. I mean, that's all the polling I've seen for the last 8 years when I was on Seattle City Council.
By the way, Enrique, what did the poll end up being? Because they cut off. So
Well, here's what happened with that. And I didn't even realize this was going on, is that the Seattle channel had also posted the app, the barcode to get into the app for the polling. So, and I don't know, this was really what happened with the second question, is that people that have been watching, that's why the numbers, why we don't have that many people in here. And then it got to like 300 or something. It's just people that were watching the program online or on the Seattle channel via cable or whatever started participating in the polling. So that's why
the code came up.
Yeah,
on the screen.
Right. And then we couldn't get the final result because people were still adding it up. So, which was a good thing in a way, because you had people watching and they were paying attention to this, but we weren't able to get the final thing, and then we were running out of time. So at that point, rather than standing there with dead air, we just moved on because we had to, so that was the deal. So that's what happened.
I think so having Chief Diaz, Chief Scogins, Chief Smith, and then Tanya Kim from HSD. I mean, I've heard all that before. Okay. I liked it that you brought up about ShotSpotter, and I like that the chief brought up about there's been 5,000 overdoses in the encampments and shootings, all this stuff we know. I was hoping it would get a little meatier about, okay, creating a safer Seattle, but if they're going to do these 4 more sessions or 5 more sessions at 5 different precincts, I'm hoping that they have a more diverse audience, not just a friendly audience that is kicking off anyone's campaign.
Yeah,
that we're actually going to talk, like what Omari said.
You run a fine line here because, they took questions from the audience and had them, submit questions rather than me going, which is also dicey, I think, to some extent, because
they don't have to open up a microphone. Yeah. I mean, a few things here, especially getting to them moving around the neighborhoods. But first thing I want to say is that I heard when the mayor talked about, and there's legislation around, where people can have guns and everything. Yeah. That's important. But man, the elephant in the room or whatever is that, man, these guys, they're not legally carrying these guns anyway. Some of them are 3D printing these guns. Yeah. So sometimes it can be perceived like, oh, okay, this is great. You're going to make another law about it. But man, these guys are, they're getting these guns through all kinds of different ways that aren't legal.
There's a lot of stolen guns out there.
To take it in a park, to do this or that or anything else, right? But I was going to say is one, when they move around these neighborhoods, I hope they put a mic there and people walk up and they get in line and they talk. You see what I'm saying? As opposed to these written questions. They need to sit there for hours. And that's just what it needs to be. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit here and have a highly fine-tuned for TV community conversation. The mayor and all these people, if they serious about this, they're going to have to sit there in Rainier Beach for 3 hours. Sit there, listen to people. You see what I'm saying? Because one, yes, I mean, a lot of it's going to be ideas, but you know what? It's a lot of people, man, who've been traumatized, been through so many things, everything else. And this is their one opportunity to speak to somebody. You see what I'm saying? And we shouldn't underestimate that fact that we've got thousands, if not tens of thousands of people in this city who've been traumatized because someone gets shot, say they live, hopefully they live, but look at all these, the young girl yesterday was shot. Look at all these kids who was traumatized around that though, who was either right there at the bus stop or could have even still been in the building. Every time there's a murder out here, somebody gets killed here, the old man who lives next door is now scared to walk to the store. There's a city here of people who are living in trauma, and it's unaddressed, and it's not recognized, and it's played off. So these guys better show up big when they go over here talking about their address safety, and they need to have a willingness to listen to people. And some of these people aren't going to have a solution, but some of these people deserve to be heard because they've been living in compounded trauma over the years, and no one has sat there and had a willingness to come and just listen. So first and foremost, I hope that they're allotting enough time and it isn't some written down on a cue card, because some of our big mamas all the way to our little buddies, they living with this trauma and it needs to be heard. The second thing is, who is Seattle going to listen to? See, I got it all on film in the best way because we did a lot of emphasis on covering around gun violence in schools and teenage kids last year. When you talk to kids at Rainier Beach, they want partnership with the police. They're like, man, we want the police in school. We want to be able to walk to the taco truck without getting shot. We want the police, with the cafeteria. We want to fist bump, play basketball. They're like, man, we want to live. We want to be safe.
We got rid of the
But when
police,
you go to
remember, at
Roosevelt,
the schools? Remember during defund the police, they got rid of all the officers or community officers at schools.
Yeah, but when you go to Roosevelt and when you go north, they're like, man, we don't want no police. Police make our schools unsafer and police, whatever. This is what we recorded when we talked to and interviewed kids. So you got these South End kids that's dodging bullets almost every day down there. And they're like, look, man, their realities of everyday life and their perception of safety is much different than kids in the North End. And the kids in the North End were like, we don't want police. We don't want anything around us and everything else. Who is the city council and the mayor going to listen to? Because a lot of times, I will say this, been long-winded, is that when the city council or the mayor or people make policy, their policy is driven by the people who are scared of violence as opposed to the people who are impacted by violence.
No, and you're not long-winded, man. I mean, what you're saying needs to be heard, and I appreciate what you're saying.
I will push back on this, Omari. Since we had 2 shootings at Ingram and now Ingram Nathan Hale High School, everyone now knows how to shelter in place. That has changed a lot in the last 4 years. And I mean, the statistic about 40% of the shootings are in the South End. And you guys have been sitting and living in the shootings it's like commonplace, and it shouldn't be that kind of trauma-filled community. And the representatives down there should know that and do that and understand what the root of that is. But we have seen and experienced all across the city and certainly across this nation, more shootings everywhere. As you know, sheltering in place is just a normal thing now. After Uvalde, all these shootings. So you come from a place where I've grown up around this, and what are electeds going to do? What are families going to do? How do we hold ourselves accountable? But it's everywhere now. And as you know, sometimes something is not a problem till it leaves our neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'll just be clear. Listen,
okay.
we've been waving our arms for 30 years in the Central District.
Yep.
We're most impacted by violence. Ain't nobody cared until white folks got impacted. Nobody cared until white people were impacted by, oh wow, there's crime everywhere. Oh wow, there's murder everywhere. Then somebody, and so the arrogance here in this city, and also a lot of the media, where there's like, oh well, now crime is the number one thing. That's because your white people's been impacted by crime. What's been number one for us since I was a little kid?
I know. And we saw the same
it's
thing.
interesting though. You say white people are impacted by crime, but not even really, right? What I like to call the new colonizers would move into Beacon Hill and Columbia City in the South End. But they still align with the Black Lives Matters stuff because their privilege
Don't get me going, Matt. Do not go.
To them the ability to not have to live with the policies. It makes them feel good, but they're never impacted. And that is the real disconnect from a political standpoint in those areas. I mean, why do they keep voting for the same thing that hasn't worked?
because Omar and I had this talk before, and I've said it, and I'll say it again because I have said this on the record, is that there are many neighborhoods that don't have the luxury of not having police around because they've never
Yes.
had to. And that used to drive me crazy on Seattle City Council. And I want to pitch something back to you guys, particularly to Omari. Do you think having district representation and having a council member that understands that, grew up in that? I mean, we have, council member, I always just say Joy, but is there going to be a way to like have people who are in that district, who are sitting there, who grew up there, who understand it, who have family, businesses? Are they going to be able to tackle that at a root level and say, this is what we're going to do to change that? Do you think district representation is going to do that, or has it done it, or has it failed?
Well, last night at the forum, Joy spoke, and specifically, she talked about that's her area, that's her neighborhood, that's her community, and so now we'll see what she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she spoke from the heart.
Right.
She spoke from the heart. Unlike, okay, and I'll just pull her out, Morales never speaks from the heart because she didn't grow up there. She doesn't live with that. And she has a certain ideology that she pushes over people. But that's the difference. When district representation works, it works well, like with people like Joy. When you're talking about someone like Morales, not so much.
Yeah, I think in Seattle, what happened is that you got a bunch of like fiefdoms, kingdoms, and I mean, so for example, is that there are people, a lot of things might come across our a lot of other districts. At least I know that like District 2 and 3 might benefit if people had a broader view of the city. You know what I'm saying? I mean, things that are economic drivers. Look, how many big economic drivers or infrastructure projects that aren't government do we get in District 2 or District 3? You know what I'm saying? Like think about that, right? Because yeah, a lot of the issues there are like socially focused, which is important and everything else. But that also means that if you have a council member who's really good in business and that economics, all those things stay in that district. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
That's right.
look at D5. Council member Juarez district is like, man, here's your cracking community iceplex. Here's your this that.
Here's your light rail. Here's your new community center. Here's your new businesses.
Where the Storm building their thing? That's somebody. What district that the Storm's building their practice facility? You see what I'm saying? And so for me, I'm like, I would like it also. That's why these guys can't get no good coalition on things. It's more like horse swapping, at least as a layman on the outside. I'm not in the back room. Horse swapping on and you vote for this, I vote for that, as opposed to people seeing collectively what's gonna, what help a district. I think we would benefit. District 3, if this was citywide, we would benefit because then we got 7, 9 people, however many, to actually hold accountable.
Yeah, District 2 and 3 need economic development and economic vitality. They got to move beyond ideology and say, we need talk. I mean, we need action, not talk. We worked hard, as you know, on the Climate Pledge Arena, the Cracking Community Iceplex, Light Rail, the Storm Training Center. Those are all big projects. The waterfront, even though you represent a district, you still vote, obviously, for the whole city. So my goal was everything should be spread citywide, but it was easier for me to get stuff done in my district. But again, and I've had this conversation with some of the newly electeds, is that districts 2 and 3 have been ignored for economic vitality. And it's time that we start talking about that because you know what jobs are coming from a reservation? It's opportunity and it's hope. That's what gives us hope, that we have the good stuff in our neighborhood, community centers, libraries, light rail. I don't care what big business you want to put there, it's jobs. And instead of just, the same slogan and t-shirt has hurt our people. And I've watched it growing up on a reservation. So I kind of have a little bit more emotional there because I have a lot of faith in the new folks that are going to be representing some of these districts.
Well, we shall see because they're on the clock now. I mean, it's their ball to take and try to do something with it. And and the mayor's got the council that he wanted. So we got to see some results here now. So we'll see what happens. Let me move on to something a little lighter here. Debora, I'm kind of curious what you thought of Lily Gladstone not winning an Oscar.
I knew you were going to bring that up. Okay, so let me just say this. I've watched Lily. I know Lily's family. because obviously
Oh,
I
really?
know them. Yeah, I do. And I watched Lily on Res Dogs, and I know, like I said, I know her family, and before she got famous on Killers of the Flower Moon. And I just want to say that, Indigenous storytelling, um, it's going to go on regardless of the medium, whether it's a podcast, a movie, Hollywood, the storytelling, the richness. She's just carrying on a legacy, but now it's just on a bigger platform, and it's wonderful to see. And like I said, it doesn't begin and end with Hollywood. I don't know if she was robbed or not. Obviously, we were all cheering for her, but part of me just feels like really a lot of pride, but there are so many other Native American actors. I'm looking at you people who watch Yellowstone because it's not real. I know all my Native American sisters, a lot of them love that damn show. Drives me crazy. So I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna let it go. But there's so many Lily Gladstones out there that are poets and writers and media and do all kinds of wonderful things. But one of the things that I kind of made me sad, and I think when you and I were texting, is that there was a lot of focus on Lily Gladstone being Black, being nominated for Academy Award. And I wish that the young woman who was 16 years old, Next Benedict, her mother was a member of the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma. She was only 16 years old. She got bullied and she killed herself. I wish that there was more media attention on this young Native woman that killed herself for being non-binary in a state, a very red state. I'm just going to say it. Well, I won't say it, but that kind of, I wish that we would sometimes see that too, that is just as where our hearts and minds should be as well. I
Yeah.
don't, everyone kept saying, well, I don't know. I have a secret to share with you though. I know about 4 other Indian women, maybe 5, where they either couldn't watch Killers of the Flower Moon, only watched it in chunks. I couldn't finish it. It's like I've never finished Little Big Man either. I know that shows my age. Watching people kill Indian women, I couldn't watch it, man. It was making me, so my husband's like, let's just turn it off. I just couldn't watch it. It's like, it was just breaking my heart because I know in real life, because I read the book, in real life, and just knowing what I know from where my people came from and the massacres that happened, I know it was much worse. So I can't watch it. And I am going to steel myself and go back and finish the last 40 minutes or so, but it just made me sad.
Yeah.
But it's a story that has to be told.
Yep. It does. It can't
Unlike
be
Barbie.
ignored.
How the hell were people complaining about Barbie? Okay, I understand the message, but okay, white girl, got it. Ken, the doll. All right. Yeah. All right.
Well, I was shocked, but having also seen the Emma Stone movie, I have to say she was pretty good, and so
I haven't watched that. I watched
yeah,
Oppenheimer.
yeah.
I like Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I watched it
Poor
twice.
Things is something. If you go to that, you're going to say, "What the hell is this thing?" And then as you go along, it's sort of like Barbie in a way because like at the beginning of the Barbie, I thought, "Why am I here?" And then it just kind of got sucked me
Because
in.
men
So
like
yeah.
you have to watch it.
Well, hey, at least I want to watch it, so get off my back. But anyway, all right. So why don't we wrap this one up? We have so much to talk about, and hey, I appreciate everybody here just taking the time and opening up, and I love it. So thank you so much for doing this.
So the next time we meet, are we
Yeah.
going to have our March Madness charts ready? Are they called charts? What are they called?
Oh yeah, your
I don't pay attention to the
your
men.
bracket.
I only do the
your
women.
bracket.
My
Really?
bracket. I do the women. Watching Caitlin. I'm all up in there.
never done a bracket, but hey, my Cougs are
Oh
going to
my
make it into the
God.
tournament. So
Turn in your man card.
I
You've never done a
know.
bracket.
I just have. I don't
Damn.
know what I just
I
watch
only watch women.
But
I only watch
do
women.
like this is to me is when there's the basketball is great because there are so many things where these teams out of nowhere come up and they take center stage, and then there's these last minute shots.
Basketball is on fire.
Yeah,
I'm going to get Joel Lloyd on the show.
That's really
agree.
interesting.
Well, let's do it. Yeah,
because they're crossing over men's and women a lot. And because my grandson, who plays basketball for West Seattle, just bought some Ionesco shoes. A woman's shoe to play varsity basketball, to play basketball at West Seattle. And I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Recognize the talent.
Really, Matt? You're going to bring up a woman's shoe?
Yeah.
That's your contribution to the basketball combo. Okay.
Yeah, but they're
Hey.
flashy,
Wow.
man.
Hey, but look, that's a big deal, really. If you think
Oh,
about
that's
it,
a
suddenly
huge
it's a
deal.
big deal.
I know
Yeah,
Marty's
yeah.
going to give me a hard time because I said, I know the Mariners have been around for 40 something years and they haven't gone to the big mitt. So my husband's a big
You're
diehard
gonna leave my
Mariners fan.
Mariners alone. See how
Oh.
we got along the whole show. This was love, peace, scare, grease.
My
And
husband is a
now we're moving.
diehard Mariners fan.
Is that your big thing, Omari? Is that your
Come on,
Oh
favorite
man.
God,
sport?
yes.
Listen,
Omari's a
All
ride
right.
or
we
die
don't want these
Mariner.
problems here,
Well,
okay?
good.
I don't
good.
understand the love there, but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay. So thank you for being unfiltered. And so we will gather
I
again
want-
soon.
I got my list of names for our show. Someday I'm going to
Okay.
read them all out. I
All
want it to be
right.
called either the Steelheads or the Sockeyes. I still think that's a good name.
Well,
Steelheads or
speaking of
Sockeyes.
steelheads,
Yeah, there you go.
This is steelhead shirt here.
Actually, I liked Beauty and the Beast. That was
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, I don't think I'm much of a beast, but what the heck. All right, so we'll wrap it up and look forward to getting together and talk more next time. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.